Oh, the last thing I remember, I was promising not to open any more boxes or start any more kits until I finished the ones that were already open. Oh, what happened? The madness came over me. So it's kind of like, the funniest thing. I am on the phone talking with Steve and Ken. I took the Jupiter 2, the Polar Lights Jupiter 2, out to the kitchen just to sort of do a parts inspection. Monica was real impressed with it. In fact, when she saw how big it was, she goes, wow, I could make a salad in that thing. So it does, the Flying Salad Bowl. Maybe that should be its new name. Anywho, so as I am merrily, sitting there testing the parts fit, Ken calls and then Steve calls. So we wound up doing a three-way chat, which is funny as it might have made a pretty good live stream. But anyway, I'm test fitting the parts. And while I'm talking to them, the instructions were a little confusing. And we're going to talk about that on the live stream. But the live stream is going to be helicopters and flying saucers, I think. Yeah, that'll probably be the two things we talk about because that was what I was working on. And I know I said I wasn't going to start any more kits until I got the ones out in the shed, like 9 of them I have partly underway. But there's a caveat I didn't tell you about. I won't start any new kits in the Tarbis. These are being done in the house at my desk, like when I'm listening to YouTube or whatever, just killing some time. But anywho, so the instructions were a little confusing, but as I started test fitting the parts, a lot of them just sort of snapped into place. Only a few of them on the lower deck really needed any glue. Now, the upper deck probably won't be the same. But I realized that lower deck you're not going to be able to see it. And this thing, maybe it's designed so you can take it apart and show your friends the inside of it. I'm not really sure. But I'm not going to make it that way. I'm going to make it as a sealed unit. So I wasn't really worried about detailing the lower decks. But I am going to get some reference photos and to detail out the upper decks. I'm not going to light it. And by the way, that bottom piece looks like it's going to take a lot of masking if you're going to do it the way it looks on the box art because it's one big clear piece of acrylic. But that's what's planned with that. And speaking of checking your reference material in advance, I was pre-painting some of the parts for the Skycrane. And I've seen a lot of Skycranes in my time, and I was doing it from memory, but memory is faulty. And I wound up painting aluminum paint over parts of the landing gear and some other areas of rotor head assemblies when in fact the Army painted all that green. I was thinking the hydraulic struts, but those exterior components are the outside shell for the hydraulic struts, not the interior oleo section that's actually aluminum. It's actually almost completely olive drab except for the rotor blades that are black. And so I detailed out the interior as much as I'm going to because this is just sort of a fun build out of the box, not getting in the weeds with it. But I went ahead and okay, made that mistake. So I'll be painting over a lot of work I did, including the engines, which I even painted those green. But certain areas are still a cream color and an aluminum color. So it'll be more, I'll probably hold off on the engines, build everything else. And getting the rotor blades taped off might be a little trick. So I'm going to pre-paint the blades and the other areas by hand and then see how late I can attach them and pre-paint as much as possible because personally, I think pre-painting is a heck of a lot easier than masking off. Some of the front glass is going to have to be taped off, but I went ahead and actually overshot the area on the outside of the cockpit where the frame glass is going to go, so I won't have to tape those off once I put the windows in place. I can just put a square piece of tape over it like I did on the Buffalo, and that seems to have worked pretty well. Just a little bit less masking. And so that's where we're at with that. I also heard from Dan Monroe, and he is still interested in joining us for a live stream. And you can bet we'll go over the Lost in Space stuff in detail with him because that's sort of his bailiwick. So that's where we're at right now for today. Still building away and getting a lot of material together for the live stream, which is going to talk about heavy lift helicopters and flying saucers models. So we will talk to you guys later. Take care of yourselves, and as always, muddle on. The last thing I remember was promising not to open any more boxes until I'd finished the ones that were already opened. What happened?